Hello, and welcome to CASH's Language Access Training, Tax Year 2020. My name is Marlene Cortez, and I am the manager for the Language Access Program here at Empire Justice Center.
Hi, my name is Leanna Hess. I'm the volunteer program manager. Many of you know me from last year, but there are many new faces also taking this training.
And we're both the Language Access Coordinator for CASH. And welcome.
Welcome. What is language access? Language access is achieved when individuals with limited English proficiency can communicate effectively with your program staff and participate in your programs and activities. Language access plans explains the steps that agencies will take to make sure that individuals have meaningful access to the services they provide.
Why do we have a language access training? In New York State, there are about 2.5 million people who are limited English proficient. CASH is a federally funded program, and we are required by federal law to provide language access plans and training for all CASH volunteers, CASH staff, and anyone that affiliates with CASH. It's the law. Under Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in any program or activity that it receives FFA money, which is federally funded agencies. Executive Order 13166 holds federal agencies the same standard as recipients and requires that federal agencies work to ensure that recipients of FFA money provide meaningful access to their LEP applicants and beneficiaries. Under Section 1557 of the Affordable Care Act, it prohibits discrimination based on race, color, national origin, sex, age, and disability in health programs or activities, any part of which receive funding from the Human Services agencies. American with the Disability Act of 1990, under the people who are deaf or hard of hearing, are entitled to same services law enforcement provides to anyone else. They may not exclude or segregate from services, to be denied services, or otherwise be treated differently than other people.
Here we have the stats of Monroe County. These are the LEP in our county, and this is from the last census. So next year we'll be having updated information. So 36% of those who are LEP in Monroe County speak Spanish, and the largest group after that is Chinese with 8.62%.
What is not reflected on this chart is Rochester, it has a large refugee population where the dominant language are Somalian, Swahili, Nepali, and Burmese. And also what is not reflected on this chart is a large ASL population or deaf or hard of hearing population in Monroe County that uses ASL or other hearing devices.
So we'll be going over some key terms: limited English proficiency, language access services, interpretation and translation, deaf of hard of hearing. Limited English proficiency: an individual who does not speak English as their primary language and has limited ability to read, speak, write, or understand English.
Language access services is the mechanism used to facilitate communications with LEP clients and can include things like multilingual staff, bilingual staff, interpreters, translated documents, and forms of multilingual signage, use of release interpreting services, technology, and more.
Interpreting and translation. An interpreter renders a message spoken into one language. Sorry about that. An interpreter renders a message spoken in one language into one or more languages, either by verbal interpretation or gesturing communication. A translator is a person who converts written text from one language into one or more languages.
Deaf usually refers to hearing loss so severe that there is very little or no functional hearing. The lowercase deaf when referring to the audiological condition of a hearing, and not the upper deaf when referring to a particular group of deaf people who share a language. For example, American Sign Language and a culture. We do recognize ASL as a language here at Empire Justice Center. Hard of hearing.
Hard of hearing refers to a hearing loss where there may be enough residual hearing that an auditory device, such as a hearing aid or FM system, provides adequate assistance to process speech. And we understand that those who are hard of hearing may not even understand ASL. CAS procedures. So now we're going to go over what to do when you have a limited English proficient. Identify if someone is LEP. So this slide particularly for the front desk volunteers. Use the language identification card to identify which language the client speaks that is displayed at the front desk. Of course, not just front desk volunteers can use this, anyone can, but usually it would be the front desk volunteer. Once you discover the language, make sure to write it down on their paperwork. So many times you'll find that on the paperwork, the client's paperwork, they will have the language that they speak.
Next step is to call Language Line. We will have the steps written on the wall next to the language access phone for the in-person services. We will email you the steps if you're a virtual volunteer. Watch the tutorial videos on Language Line that has created to learn how to use their services. This service is free to client. If at any point using Language Line you're unsure, please reach out to either Leanne or myself or your language access coordinator for further clarification.
What to do if you speak another language. If you speak another language, please make sure that you know tax terms and concepts in that language if you are willing to interpret. If you're bilingual and you are willing to use this skill set in your volunteer role, please notify your volunteer program manager, and that is me. If you are asked to interpret by a staff, volunteer, or intern, please see the volunteer program manager. If it is not written down on their paperwork, make note of the language that is being used and that there was a volunteer interpreter.
CAS procedure. Language Line is the preferred method of communication when needing an interpreter. If the client is not comfortable with using these services, we will schedule a face-to-face interpreter. If you need to communicate with a client, always go to Language Line first. Staff members and other volunteers are not paid interpreters. All staff persons, volunteers, and interns are required to help clients who are LEP. If you cannot use the Language Line due to hearing devices, please let your volunteer program manager person know, which is Leanne. And ASL interpretation will be scheduled by CAS staff if there are clients that come in that uses ASL as a method of interpretation.
Important note, if you are not sure whether an interpreter is needed, consult your direct supervisor or language access coordinator.
Things to keep in mind while working with an in-person interpreter. Please speak clearly, not like I'm doing right now, but speak clearly. Pause for interpretation. Avoid acronyms, slangs, or jargons. Reduce jokes or idioms. They do not translate well and sometimes can be offensive. Use simple language. Avoid side conversations. Never ask for an interpreter's opinion. The interpreter is your medium of communicating with the client in front of you. Your focus should be directly to the client and using the interpreter to communicate what you need to communicate to them.
Refusal of services. If, after a volunteer has offered the client language assistance, the client refuses those services, this refusal must be documented by a CAS staff member. The CAS staff member shall determine if they can continue the services for the client consistent with interpreting ethical standards. So as a volunteer, if someone refuses services, just call over a CAS staff member and they will take care of it. So now we are going to do a little role play just so you can better understand what we're saying. So Marlene will be the client in all of our scenarios, and I will be the CAS volunteer. So Marlene will be speaking Spanish, and we chose this because this is the language we both speak, and these characters are based off of our family members, just to let you guys know. Scenario 1, client speaks Spanish, and they forgot to add in their W-2s in their virtual folder. The screener needs to call them to ask about the W-2s. Oh, I see that Marlene has all of her paperwork in Spanish, but she's missing her W-2s. Let me call her. Ring, ring.
Hello?
Hello, is this Marlene?
See?
Hi, Marlene. My name is Leanna Hesh from the CASH program. Do you have a minute to talk about your tax return?
Spanish, no speak English.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Hold on one moment.
Okay.
Let me call language line, add in the company code, put in Spanish. Hello, Marlene. This is Leanna. Can you hear me now?
Sí, te oigo.
Perfect. Thanks. And that is scenario one.
So just to clarify, the operator on the other line is going to ask you what language are you going to need, and you would have to provide them with the client's phone number, and they will call the client, and that's when the interaction and connection happens. Again, please refer back to the previous slide if you have questions on how to communicate with the interpreter over the phone. Same method applies.
Scenario two, client says that they can speak English well, but you are unable to understand them. Hello, good morning.
Hola, hello.
I'm here to help you with your taxes today. Can I see your paperwork, please?
Oh, sure, here you go.
Oh, I see all of this is in Spanish. Would you like an interpreter?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So how was it coming up? How was it with the COVID testing on the first floor?
I don't have COVID.
No, sorry, I didn't mean if you had COVID. I was just wondering how was the procedures with COVID, with the temperature scanning and all of that on the first floor. How was that?
I don't have tests for COVID. I don't have COVID.
Oh, okay. I'm really glad you don't have COVID. But I know that you don't want an interpreter, but I feel like I would need one in this conversation. I would feel more comfortable having someone help us. This will also help you have no errors on your return. You don't want the IRS on your bad side.
IRS is after me. I did something bad?
No, sorry. This is a huge misunderstanding. Why don't we go over to the language line area? Follow me.
Okay. Ay, Dios mío.
And so in this scenario, there are many things going on. So I noticed that Marlene, even though she said she didn't want an interpreter, I felt like there was a need for one. I wasn't really understanding her. So I probed her with some questions. I was asking her about the procedures with COVID and how it went on the first floor. She misinterpreted everything that I was saying, and that indicated to me that an interpreter was needed for our conversation.
And she moved, and the way Leanne moved into that port about getting the interpreter, it was more not trying to offend the person on the other side, but just saying, I would need it to be more clear. As you can see, when she used the IRS as an example, that's kind of the jargon we're saying it doesn't interpret well, and she was scared, thinking that she did something wrong. So we encourage folks to stay away from any jargon of that. Also, careful, there's cultural differences, and just say I need it for myself, just to make sure that there are no errors, and then move forward from there.
Yes. So now moving on to scenario 3. Client who refuses to use language line. Hello, I'm here to go over your completed paperwork.
Hello, gracias. Thank you.
Can you pass me your paperwork, please?
Okay. Of course.
You're missing your social security statement. Do you have it on you by any chance?
I'm not applying for Social Security. I don't know why you need my statement.
No, your social security statement. Not.
I don't know.
No, I feel like we're having miscommunication. I'll feel more comfortable if someone was helping us. Let me use Language Line. It is our free interpretation service.
No one interpreter. I'm okay doing this on my own. I don't like interpreters.
Don't worry, it's a very simple process and there is no charge for you.
No, like not comfortable with it. No like interpreters in my business.
Okay, let me speak to a supervisor. Would you feel comfortable with me bringing a supervisor?
It's fine, but I don't want an interpreter.
Okay, please wait one moment. So in this scenario, Marlene did not want to use an interpreter, and that is perfectly fine. What you do as a volunteer is that you look for a CASH staff member, either in person or you would call them, and the CASH staff member would handle the situation.
And just to be clear, Language Line has a confidentiality agreement. And it is confidential what's being said over the phone, but there is a third-party action that sometimes people think of during these scenarios, which is where you always should not engage on that aspect. Always find a CASH staff member to assist you.
Importance of tracking information. Make sure that you write in the QR sheet if they need in-person or in-phone interpretation. This helps us with funding and allows us better understand our clients. So if we see that there is a population that uses our services, we can better address them next year.
So these are common questions that we hear. Can clients bring their own interpreter? We rather have a professional interpreter come in because they are familiar with the tax concept interpretation and are left best to the experts. But you will find cases where they will bring their own interpreter, and that would be a case-by-case scenario. If you're unsure or uncomfortable with this section of someone bring your own interpreter, always seek the language access coordinator for feedback and more guidance.
Can I use Google Translate to communicate with a client? No, Google Translate is not accurate, and even more so regarding taxes. Please use Language Line or contact the Language Access Coordinator for other options.
Can children be used as an interpreter? No. Minors should never be used as an interpreter at CASH or anywhere else. In part, just the staff and volunteers and interns must not allow children to serve as an interpreter for other than simple exchange of information or emergency situations. Taxes are complicated, and no matter what scenario you are, children should never be used as an interpreter. If they bring adult children, again, this is a case-by-case scenario. A lot of the older population depends on their older children, adult children to help with interpreting issues or services. If you're unclear or uncomfortable, always seek the language access coordinator for further guidance.
Thank you for volunteering with CASH. If you have any questions, you can send us an email, and we're looking forward to this new tax season.
Adiós. Gracias.
Bye.